What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Coach's Corner. I interviewed Jeff Patterson. He is a world-renowned martial artist, 36 years in the game, and he has found this amazing bridge between meditation and martial arts. How to really tune the mind in to become a better athlete, a better person. I'm going to let him tell his story. This is Coach's Corner with Jeff Patterson. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Coach's Corner. And today I have Jeff Patterson. He is dedicated the last 36 years of his life into learning martial arts, and he kind of parlays that into his coaching program. And I'm gonna let him talk a little bit about that. Welcome, Jeff. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit of background? I like to get people's background to where they are now, because that usually shapes their journey.
Yeah, so I've been involved in the martial and meditative arts now for over 36 years. I started up my academy here in Portland 30 years ago and have been very fortunate to have over 26,000 students come through the last 30 years, So we've had some really great community involvement here at the academy. I have students that have been with me for 30 years. I have a few handfuls of students that have been with me over 20 years. And so it really is kind of like my second family here. As a very young guy, I was very much into Western boxing. And before I had my academy, I used to go to a boxing gym that's not too far down the street here from my current academy. And at a boxing gym, it's run a little bit different than how you would see a normal fitness class, in that it's not an instructor in front of a group of students and everybody's following along. Usually there might be 4 or 5 different coaches in the gym, and each one of those coaches might have a handful of fighters that they're working with.
Mhm.
Well, at this one particular gym, there was a coach there who had created champions in both amateur and professional arena. He had a great reputation and created a lot of amazing fighters. And I wanted to get to spend some time with him, but his card was full. He already had a group of guys he was working with, and I was the new guy there, and he wasn't really taking on any new guys. And so I would always show up at the gym when I knew he was going to be there, and work hard and try to get him to notice me. And I followed him around for about 3 or 4 months. And finally, he started giving me some tips and showing me a few things. And it was only about maybe 2 or 3 weeks of getting to work with this guy when he said something to me that changed my life forever. And that he said, if you really want to be a good boxer, you should start doing meditation and Tai Chi. Now, at the time, I'm this 19-year-old kid thinking, isn't Tai Chi for old people in the park? How's that going to help me be a better fighter? But I started doing the practice. I had a lot of respect for him. And not only has it changed my life in many ways, through the years and seeing all of these students come through the academy, I've heard hundreds of stories on how the meditative arts has positively influenced people's lives. And that's what's made me so motivated to write my last couple books and create my online programs and really try to get this message out there, because I just, it's made me so passionate about it.
Mm, that's awesome. So, whenever you've had a background of such, there's usually lessons in there. What are some of the lessons that you now coach to your students?
You know, One of the things that I think anybody new coming to a meditative practice that they really need to think about, and as far as, being a teacher for the last 30 years, one of the biggest struggles I've had and come up against is getting people to be consistent and see the value and be disciplined enough to really reap the benefits of what this practice has to offer. And so I've come up through the years with 3 things that I like people to spend some time thinking about when they're starting a practice. And I find that if they do this, there's a lot better chances of them succeeding. And the first one is thinking about Why are you being drawn to the practice? Do you want to stay healthier into your later years to watch your grandkids grow up? Or maybe you're dealing with a stress disorder like anxiety or panic attacks. Or maybe you want to boost your creativity or improve your athletic performance. Whatever that is for you. And then not only think about like the surface level why, but also think about how your life will change if you do this and you accomplish this goal and you're feeling more confident in going in public and you don't have panic attacks anymore, or you're feeling healthy so you can go on walks with your grandkids, and then flip the coin and think about if you don't do that, think about all the negative things that are going to happen to you. And spending time visualizing this and thinking about this idea, what I find is that it gives people fuel to be motivated, to stay consistent, because, I don't care who you are, we're all going to reach that point where the alarm's going to go off in the morning and you're going to want to hit the snooze button instead of getting up and practicing. And if you have a purpose and a reason to get up, you start looking forward to the practice rather than thinking it's a chore that you have to do once in a while. And then the second thing is approach this practice with the understanding that you need to be consistent and make it a way of life. Consistency with this practice is where all the fruits are held. And we want to get to the point where we really start reaping the benefits from this and making it a way of life and not a hobby that we do once in a while. And then the third thing that's very important to understand is that you have to find a guide. There's so many videos and instructionals out there and apps that you could get where you could go out there and try to self-teach yourself the meditative arts, but it's a very deep pool and there's a lot to pull from. And I've seen it over and over again. Somebody will come in here to the academy who's been self-taught and they've been going on at it for 15, even 20 years. And they're not much further along than somebody who's been following a guide and has only been doing it for a year.
Yeah,
And, our lives are short, your time is valuable, and having somebody that can really help you and point you in the right direction can save you a lot of time. So if you
absolutely.
spend time in those three areas, thinking about what your why is and really deep in understanding what that is and both sides, the positive and the negative to it, understanding the value of being consistent and having that discipline to keep up with the practice and finding a guide, your chances of being successful are very much increased.
We were talking before we came on about the perception of some of the meditative arts as you describe them, such as Tai Chi and Qigong. Talk about why those are prominent myths and how you overcome a new student coming in and you suggest those arts and they want to come bust heads and submit people.
Yeah, it's funny, I'm coming from the same boat. When I was 19, I didn't want to take on a meditative practice, and in fact, I didn't see the value in it at all. I just had a lot of respect for my coach, and everything he told me I treated like it was gold, and I was just trying to impress him so I could, get more time with him. And I think a lot of people do that as they come to the martial arts and they think, this is aggressive. I'm gonna, they're a type A personality maybe, and they're going at it with this hard charger attitude where it's great, and part of the training is having that hard charging attitude and being aggressive. And there is that element of it. But it doesn't matter if it's martial arts or athletics or whatever, you're going to come up against other opponents that are bigger, stronger, and faster than you. And if every person you try to overpower, there's going to be a lot of people that you can't overpower and you can't beat that way. And so, understanding how to develop our awareness and our sensitivity in these present states of mind and being able to be more aware of what's going on can really help us not only in the combative arts, but in everything we do in life. And that's why, I've been so passionate about meditation, is that you start learning these skills and these root fundamental basics of the art. And now you start seeing how they affect everything you do in life.
Hmm. I love that. I love that. Uh, you've had over 25,000 students at your academy. Where is your academy?
In Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon. Okay. Uh, what is the main art that you teach, or is it kind of like like I told you before, like Jeet Kune Do, where you just take a bunch of different things that are working and throw out the stuff that doesn't, or is it just you have a philosophy that you coach by?
So we have 4 adult programs here. People come here just to focus on the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the striking arts, which we do a combination of boxing and Muay Thai. And then we have our Eskrima and Jeet Kune Do program. And then we have our meditation program, which is a combination of Tai Chi, Qigong, the breath work, and meditative arts. And so, there's not a whole lot of people that cross train. Some of them do. Most people come here with a specific focus, and that's where we take them down that path.
I see. I see. Uh, do you do anything online? Like a lot of big fighting arts gyms, they have online courses. Do you offer something like that?
I do with the meditative arts. So I have the Yielding Warrior, and the Yielding Warrior is a program that I've created to help kind of spread the word of the meditative arts. It's also what my last book is named, The Yielding Warrior, and in there I talk about the concept of yielding and how to integrate it into every area of your life. But yes, through that website, you can get involved with our personalized practices that teach you how to build an online evolving meditation program that fits your lifestyle. And then there's also like the teacher training program up there for people who own yoga studios or martial arts studios, or maybe they're life coaches and they want to learn how to give people these arts and basically show them how to write a prescription with the meditative arts to fit their lifestyle.
Gotcha. So you are a Marine veteran. How much of your boot camp training parlay into the martial arts? Because I have a bunch of friends. One of my best friends is actually Marine, and he used to also train with me, and we used to talk about boot camp. And he said that boot camp was a tough situation. How did that work out for you, and how do you parlay that into?
Yeah, so there was a lot of good things I learned from being in the Marine Corps, and I think discipline and focusing on things is one of them. I had started martial arts before I joined the Marine Corps. However, going through the Marine Corps, I kept up with my martial art training, and there's a lot of things that tied together well. And I think that, as a young guy, I was a little off center, getting in a little trouble doing this and
Oh,
that. And I knew at 17 that I needed to make some kind of change. And so I joined the Marine Corps. I was like, man, if anything's going to kick me into gear and get me focused, it's going to be this. And so
yes.
I joined the Marine Corps. It helped get me on track. And then as soon as I got out of the Corps is when I met a longtime martial arts mentor and teacher of mine who helped me kind of stay true to that path. And that's kind of where my life really started to evolve and change.
Let's see. So Jeff, you've written 3 books. Tell us about the books you've written and the theme behind them.
Yeah, so my most recent book, The Yielding Warrior, is about a concept called yielding. That's something I've been very passionate about for many years. I break down yielding into 3 kind of pillars of the idea. And the first one is physical yielding, then we have mental yielding and emotional yielding. Physical yielding is the easiest one to understand. It's the idea that I push you, you push me, whoever's a bigger, stronger person with the most leverage eventually is going to push the other person over. But with yielding, instead of us trying to see who the bigger meathead is, when you push me, I get out of the way of that force. And now I can respond with less effort. So I'm not trying to butt heads with you and see if I'm bigger and stronger than you. Now, in athletics, it's easy to see how this is beneficial. I've already talked about, there's a lot of people out there bigger and stronger and faster than us. Now, in order to be good at physical yielding, a lot of things have to come into play. You need to be well rooted. The lower part of your body needs to be strong and flexible so you can change your central equilibrium without getting tight. The body has to be relaxed, the breath has to be calm, and the mind has to be present. Now, once you have reached this awareness, this is where it starts to become very interesting. And now we're moving into what I call mental yielding. Because when we start to see these things more clearly inside of ourselves, we also start to see them a little more clearly in other people. Now, say, for example, you and I are having a conversation and I say something that unsettles you, and I pick up on it right from that first sign of imbalance. It's a lot easier to adjust the conversation and keep us in a happy place than if I'm not paying attention to that. And pretty soon I'm so far off track, you want to slap me upside the head. And so learning how to use yielding in all of our interactions is extremely powerful. One, we're being more considerate, which is something that we could all do more of.
Yes,
And
sir.
two, it allows us to be strategic so we can guide these interactions to a positive outcome with the least amount of resistance. This is great for relationships, for business, for sales, for negotiations. I mean, there's so many different ways that we can apply this idea. Now, the third pillar is emotional yielding, and it's very much like mental yielding, but with our own interpersonal conflicts. So you think about oftentimes something will happen and we'll respond and we'll go down this path. And we might get an hour, a day, a week down that road and realize maybe that wasn't the best choice. But
Yeah.
with yielding and our heightened awareness through incorporating meditation into our life, oftentimes we're able to stay more present and away from our emotions so we're more balanced when these things happen. And we can respond from a more educated viewpoint, a more settled viewpoint. We're not letting distractions get in the way. And this oftentimes can save us a lot of heartache on the other side. And I've been explaining this idea of yielding now for many years. And one of the most common things I'll hear people say is, yielding makes a lot of sense. In fact, I do yielding all the time. Well, I would agree in that I think everybody does some degree of yielding all the time, whether they label it that or not.
Mhm.
But it's kind of like, if you or I were to walk into a crime scene with a detective who's been on the job for 30 years, I guarantee you that person would see things about the series of events and the timeline that I know at least I would have no clue of.
Right.
And
Great.
the meditative arts helps us see things inside of ourselves and inside of other people that I truly believe most people will go through life and never have any clue of unless they have this kind of a practice in their life.
Yeah. One of the things I noticed from my own training, you tell me if this is true for yourself, is that you expressing more of meditation and seeing things before they happen, being able to anticipate. Do you also notice that when you're in some live sparring, maybe that things slow down in your mind, where on the outside it looks like you guys are moving really fast, but you in the center of that action, it's in slow motion. Have you noticed that with your training?
For sure, and I think that's why one of the main reasons why so many professional athletes these days are turning to the meditative arts because it helps them get the distractions out of their mind and stay more focused and present where they can get in that flow state, if you will. And it's, there's a lot of social proof out there. I mean, you could do a Google search for like athletes that are turning to the meditative arts and find hundreds, if not thousands of them, and very high level athletes. Like, when Phil Jackson was coaching the Chicago Bulls and the LA Lakers, he was having his players practice Tai Chi and meditation. And here you got players like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, the best in the world, and they're practicing these meditative arts because it helps them be more focused. And so seeing that is enough to understand that, hey, there's some value here and there's some reason why so many people are turning to these arts. I think, you go back 30 years ago and people hear meditation and they think, it's some new age hocus pocus, what is that, but now it's a lot more common. And I think people are coming to a better understanding of the practice. And not only is there a lot of social proof, but there's a lot of scientific evidence that shows from different studies that they've done from some very reputable sources that show that, hey, this stuff actually works.
Yeah, agreed, agreed. Do you plan on writing any more books?
I'm working on one right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I noticed when I was on your website, you can download your book for free, just pay shipping. what would you advise someone who's kind of digging what you're saying and what's something they could do right away to get into the meditative stuff while they wait for their book to arrive?
Well, on that same website, theyieldingwarrior.com, we've got a 2 week trial there where you can get into understanding what some of this stuff is about and learn how to pull things from movement meditative practices like Tai Chi and Qigong and yoga, and understanding how this is a value, and then still practices through sitting meditation, standing meditation, for breathing exercises and energetic circulations, and then the philosophical side of the practice, and learning how to take all of these things and build an evolving life practice with the meditative arts. And so that'd be a great place to start. What a lot of people don't understand when they're coming to a meditative practice is that meditation isn't one size fits all. And there's a lot of different paths you can take with this practice. I break down the meditative arts into kind of five main categories. And there is the athletic side or the performance side that helps with your timing and your awareness. And what we've already talked about with athletes. Then there's the therapeutic side of the practice, which is good for our longevity and working through injuries and being more present in the body. And then there's the medical side of the practice. All of Chinese medicine is based off of Qigong theory. Then there's the philosophical side of the practice, which is very good for your strategic understanding and how to see things more open from different perspectives. And then lastly, there's the spiritual side of the practice. And, whatever is drawing you to the meditative arts might be one of those specific paths, or maybe a combination of a couple of them. But the things that you would incorporate and integrate for your practice might be different than somebody who's following a different path. And, having a guide will help you understand that and find things that'll work best for you.
Let's see. Jeff, do you offer in-person workshops where someone can get like an introduction to the meditative movements?
Yeah, we do here. Well, here at the academy, we have classes 7 days a week. We're a fairly large academy. We have about 500 active students. So we're running pretty regular here. And then we'll have like usually quarterly seminars where we'll have people come in from outside of the school and talk about some of these concepts and the meditative arts as well.
How many instructors do you have, or do you do most of the work?
No, I've got 14 employees, two full-time employees, and then the rest are all part-time. And so it's definitely a group effort. There's no way I could run this on my own.
Mhm. Now, do you offer a belt ranking system in your program where you rank your guys up or gals up?
So all of the different arts have different systems. Like the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a very linear program where they go from white to blue to purple to brown to black. Our striking program has a curriculum structure. We don't wear belts in our striking program, but it's similar to a belt structure in that it's a systemized approach to how you learn and you go through one phase to the next. In the Eskrima, it's similar to the striking program. And then in the Tai Chi and Qigong, we don't use a belt structure for the meditative arts. But I've been studying the meditative arts for 36 years and I'm still just a student learning all the time. There's really a lot to learn in that area. And so it's, once you jump in, you're always growing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at your website while you're talking a little bit here. It's set up really good. I see the trial.
Which website are you on, sir?
I'm on the
Oh,
yieldingwarrior.com. Is
okay.
there a different one?
Well, there's some for my academy as well. That's for my online meditation program and teacher training program, and then the book and stuff.
What's the name of the academy?
Northwest Fighting Arts.
Northwest Fighting Arts. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I think this is fascinating, man. And I love that you are introducing the other side of it because, like I was telling you previously, a lot of people just think it's all go, 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 go. And if their life is all go, 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 then there's no balance and it's gonna collide. You can't have it all one way. They've got to learn how to breathe. And you know this from studying jujitsu. When you first start, you get gassed out really quick. You You're trying to do a lot of things, and the more experienced guy, he's relaxed. He knows the counters. He knows what you're going to try to do, and he's able to. You get up and you're like, why am I out of breath? And this guy's just rolling. You learn over time to control your breathing. Um, Talk a little bit about breathing, how important it is. It seems like breathing is really being introduced. I went to a corporate webinar through my company, and I was actually surprised that the first class was about breathing. And they had some lady came in who talked about when you're in stressful situations at work, taking a moment to just breathe. And I do mortgages, so trust me, it gets stressful. There are times when you get an email and it's like, okay, I got to take five. So talk a little bit about the importance of breathing and mastering your breathing.
Yeah, so I think I'll definitely answer that question, but I'd like to broaden it just a little bit in that, in any kind of a meditation practice, we have what we call the five regulations. They're regulating the body, regulating the breath, regulating the mind, regulating the energy, and regulating the spirit. Briefly, I'll kind of touch on those. I'll spend a little more time on the breath since that was the direction of your question, but I think it's important for people to understand these underlying principles, if you
Sure.
will. And the first one, when I say regulating the body, it's basic idea of recognizing your skeletal alignment, your muscular tension. An example of this would be, think about a time maybe when you're sitting in front of your computer for 3 or 4 hours and you start feeling lethargic, maybe your neck's getting sore and you're feeling very depleted. And then another time when the most important person in your world walks in the room and your body perks up and you feel like you're on top of the world. Well, these two different energetic states we're in 100% control of all day, every day. And so understanding how to regulate our posture and our muscular tension in the body and our awareness with this is a very valuable part of any meditation journey. And on a little bit of a deeper level with this would be maintaining some kind of muscular structure in the body, flexibility in the body, eating a healthy diet so we keep our energy up, and getting enough sleep. Now, we could talk more about this, but I just want to give you the basic idea of this body regulation. Then we have regulating the breath, and regulating the breath is a very deep topic. And in fact, in Qigong, they often refer to Qigong as the science of the breath because there is literally hundreds of different breathing strategies. And by understanding how to use the breath, we can regulate our physical, mental, and emotional well-being. And so because there's so many different breathing strategies, we kind of categorize them into yin methods and yang methods. Yin methods are often deeper, more holistic style of meditations. They're great for bringing the energy inward. And an example of this would be if you ever listen to somebody sleep, their natural breathing pattern is a longer inhale and a shorter exhale. And this is the body's natural way of bringing your conscious mind into your subconscious mind, which is where we are when we're sleeping and dreaming. This is great for uh, dealing with stress, dealing with anxiety, panic attacks, boosting our creativity. And so in our meditations, we can do longer inhales, soft retentions at the end of the inhale to help bring that energy inward and work with this style of expression. Then we have the yang side of the breath, which is more aggressive. And an example of that would be if you've ever had to push your car, you pick up something heavy, your natural instinct is to exhale, put tension in the breath, maybe even make the breath audible. And this helps generate power and energy. Now, when we start seeing how to use this breath as a strategy, now we can adjust our physical, mental, and emotional well-being throughout the day. Everybody goes through the day with emotional ups and downs. Some people are like a roller coaster, others may be a little more balanced. But when you see yourself starting to get excited, we can use the yin side of the breath to help bring it back down. And when we see ourselves starting to feel depleted, we turn to the yang side of the breath and to help stimulate energy and pick us up. And so the breath is an extremely valuable part of any meditation journey. And then we have regulating the mind. And this, like the breath, is a very essential pillar in this practice. And, one of the most common things I hear people say through the years is, I've tried meditation, but it just didn't work for me. I couldn't quiet my mind. And somewhere along the way,
I've struggled with that.
yeah, people got this misguided, we all do, and people got this misguided idea that in order to be successful in meditation, we have to reach this state of nirvana where nothing bothers us, and I've been very fortunate through the years that I've traveled around the world many times and trained with some amazing meditation teachers all over the planet. And I've never once met anybody who doesn't get distracted. We all do, and it's just part of humanity, right? And so when we understand this, now say you're doing a sitting practice every day, or maybe you're doing a Tai Chi form and you get distracted 50 times in a 20-minute session. Well, every time you get distracted, you recognize the distraction, you use your posture, your breath, the movement to help bring you back to focus. And now you just got 50 repetitions of being off center and coming back to being balanced. And if you do this every day, every month, every year, you start to develop this power and this ability to almost as if you were unshakable, if you will, where no matter what happens, you're able to come back to that balanced state. And so regulating the mind is very important. There's this story that I really enjoy about these two old monks,
Yeah.
and they're walking down this dirt road after a huge rainstorm. There's mud puddles everywhere, and they come up to this big mud puddle, and on the other side of the puddles, this beautiful little girl, and she's standing there in a white dress crying. And the older monk, he yells across the puddle and says, "Is everything okay? Can we help you?" And she says, "I need to be somewhere, but if I walk across this puddle, I'm going to get my dress all dirty." So the older monk, he rolls up his pant legs and he walks across the puddle, picks her up, puts her on his back, takes her to the other side, sets her down, and she's off on her way. Well, him and the younger monk are walking a couple miles down the road, and finally the younger monk is just furious and he says, "You know we're not supposed to touch girls, but yet you did back there at the puddle." And the older monk looks down and says, "You're still thinking about that girl? I left her back there at the puddle." And how many times in life do we need to get 2 miles down the muddy road before we realize that we got to let this stuff go, right? And so
Yeah, I like that.
understanding how to recognize these imbalances and not letting them take us too far off center is a
Hmm.
very important part of this awareness side of the practice. And then the fourth regulation is regulating the energy, which is an extremely deep topic and something that we could literally talk for hours about. But a basic understanding is once we've reached a competent level in regulating the body, the breath, and the mind, we now have the tools to regulate the energy in the body and lead it inward, extend it outward, or circulate it through different paths to get different outcomes. And then the last regulation is regulating the spirit, which is a very profound idea and something that you'll spend your entire life's journey on a meditation practice. And in fact, a lot of monks and spiritual leaders will spend their entire life working towards that ultimate stage of enlightenment. But when you understand these five regulations or these underlying principles that are part of any meditation journey, you can see how the meditative arts affects everything we do in life and can bring a lot of value and enrich your life in many ways.
Awesome. That is awesome. So I'm gonna ask you this one, kind of a comprehensive question, and bring this all home. On your website, something that immediately stood out to me was experience vitality and inner peace. Most people kind of can figure out what inner peace means in their own understanding, but what does vitality mean to you?
So that's a good question, and I think that understanding what everybody says, it's good to have energy, or it's good to be have that life force behind you, and I think how we label these things and understand that is real important to how we emotionally resonate with these terms and how we feel about that. So for me, when I think of health and vitality, I think of everything that I do that brings me that positive energy towards that. So, like my morning ritual, every time I eat healthy, every time I go to the gym, every time I sit in the cold plunge, every time I do a sauna, every time I do some breath work or reset practices or go through my philosophical practices, any of these things that build on that positive mindset, that positive energy, and helping my body be more healthy, these all contribute to that vitality. And that's why, when I say creating an evolving practice with the meditative arts, it's why this is meant to be a way of life, because all of these things affect everything we do. And that's kind of my interpretation of health and vitality.
I love it. I love it. All right. Jeff, tell everybody where they can find you if they want to take advantage of your programs and your wisdom. Where can people find you, and what is it like when they first contact you? What can they expect?
So theyieldingwarrior.com is my website. If you'd like to get a free copy of my most recent book, The Yielding Warrior, you could go to theyieldingwarrior.com/book and just pay for shipping and handling. We'll send you out a copy of the book. Also on that website, you can get into our 2-week trial and try out our online membership and kind of see what's involved with that, learn some of these strategies we've been talking about. That's also where our teacher training program is. So maybe you have a martial arts academy or a yoga studio or a life coach, here at my academy, to give you an idea, with our meditation program, it's one of the pillars of the academy, and it's generating $35,000 to $40,000 a month just for our meditation program. And we only have 6 classes a week that we're running. And so for those of you that maybe have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school or a Muay Thai school or a karate school, and you're looking to tap into a market that's different than what you're doing, because for me, and I don't know about you, but most Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu schools or karate schools, you're going to see 20s, 30s, and 40s are the core of your adult students. But with our meditation program, we've got 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even some 90s in there. And the great thing about that is that this is a market that a lot of people aren't trying to target for the health and wellness. And so we get leads at about a third of the cost as you would for, the external arts that they're going for. And so it can be a huge pillar in your existing business.
And you offer a teacher training program. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I just heard you say that.
Yeah, so the teacher training program gives you the system on how to deliver the arts. It teaches you about the movement practices, the breath work, the philosophy, the still meditations, and then it shows you the systems in play to integrate a system like this in your existing business, or to start from scratch and create one, all the way from the class structure to the in-house systems to the advertising campaigns to the squeeze pages, how to set everything up so you can just basically plug and play and use this business and use it to create another pillar in what you have going.
How long is that program?
It's 18 months.
Okay. Is that offered randomly or just jump in anytime you want to get in it?
Yeah, it's an ongoing program, so you can start at any point.
And that's all online, I'm assuming, and videos
It's it's a big portion of it. It's online and pre-recorded, but then a lot of it is personal too, because if you're going to be teaching, there's got to be some feedback. It can't be something where, you're blindly following a video. You've got to have some guidance there. And so I work one-on-one with all of my instructor trainees, and I give in that program, you're going to have a lot of stuff that, I give more than what you'll really be able to take in 18 months. But the idea is that if you're going to be teaching, I want you to create this lifestyle and always be growing yourself, and not thinking that after 18 months you've got it all figured out, because after 36 years, I still don't have it all figured out. I'm learning every day. And so I want anybody that I help guide down this path to have that mindset where they're always trying to improve and grow.
so are they required to come in, or is it like some jujitsu schools where you film yourself coaching a move or whatever, and then you get feedback? Or is it both?
Yeah, so for the online training, it's more they're not required to come in. However, if they are in the area or they're traveling to the area, they're always welcome to come in. And it's great if you have that opportunity because that personal feedback is very valuable.
That's awesome. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ben, Coach's Corner, and Jeff is a wonderful guy. He's got a great background. I think you can learn a lot from him. So you want to go to his website, which is theyieldingwarrior.com. And he's got all the info in here, all the programs. He has a blog. And how often do you put out your blog?
Maybe once a week
Once?
lately.
Okay, so it's ongoing. Okay, so it's not one of those quarterly ones. All right, very good. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Patterson, thank you for your time today, sir, and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you for having me.